I want to start with a secret that almost everyone is keeping, and almost no one talks about. Right now, in offices and classrooms and studios and hospitals and homes all over the world, there are competent, accomplished, capable people who are quietly convinced that they are frauds. They believe that they do not really deserve what they have achieved. They believe that they have somehow fooled everyone. They believe that any day now, someone is going to figure out that they do not actually know what they are doing, and the whole thing will come crashing down. And the strangest part is, these are often the most capable people in the room. The ones who are genuinely good at what they do. The ones who, by every external measure, have earned their place. If this is you, I want to tell you something right at the start. The feeling of being a fraud is not evidence that you are a fraud. In fact, it is often evidence of the opposite. Today I want to talk about why you feel like an imposter even when you are not, where this feeling comes from, why the most competent people are often the most affected, and what you can actually do to loosen its grip. Because this feeling, left unexamined, will quietly sabotage your life. It will keep you from opportunities. It will exhaust you. It will rob you of the joy you should feel from your own accomplishments. Let's look at it directly. Stay with me. Let me first describe the experience precisely, because naming it accurately is part of disarming it. Imposter feelings usually involve a few specific components. First, there is the belief that your success is due to luck, timing, or charm, rather than your actual ability. Second, there is the fear of being found out, a persistent dread that someone will expose you as not as competent as you appear. Third, there is the discounting of evidence. When you succeed, you attribute it to external factors. When you fail, you attribute it to your true, inadequate self. The successes do not count. The failures are proof. And fourth, there is often a frantic over-preparation or overworking, an attempt to compensate for the inadequacy you are certain you possess, which ironically produces more success, which feels like more evidence that you are getting away with something. Notice the trap in this structure. It is a closed loop that cannot be disproven by success. Every achievement gets reframed as luck or as further deception. So no matter how much you accomplish, the feeling never resolves. You could win every award in your field and still lie awake at night convinced you do not belong. This is why you cannot achieve your way out of imposter feelings. The feeling is not actually about your level of competence. It is about something deeper, and until you address the deeper thing, no external success will touch it. So where does it come from? Let me walk through the most common roots. The first root is childhood messaging about worth and achievement. Many people who struggle with imposter feelings grew up in environments where love or approval was tied to performance. They learned that they were valued for what they produced, not for who they were. So achievement became a frantic, anxious activity rather than a source of pride. As adults, they cannot internalize their accomplishments, because the accomplishment was never really about competence. It was about earning love. And no achievement ever feels like enough, because the underlying hunger was never about achievement in the first place. It was about being valued unconditionally, which they never got. The second root is being the exception in some way. People who were the first in their family to go to college, who entered fields where people like them were rare, who broke into spaces they were told were not for people of their background, often carry imposter feelings intensely. There is a constant subtle message, internal and external, that they do not belong, that they are there by exception rather than by right. This is not paranoia. It often reflects real experiences of being underestimated, questioned, made to prove themselves repeatedly. The imposter feeling in these cases is partly an internalization of a world that signaled, in 1,000 small ways, that they were out of place. If this is you, I want you to know that the feeling of not belonging was installed in you by environments that failed to welcome you, not by any actual deficiency on your part. The third root is being praised for being smart or talented rather than for effort. There is fascinating research on this. Children who are praised for being smart, rather than for working hard, often develop a fragile relationship with challenge. They come to believe that their worth rests on an innate quality, intelligence, or talent, that they must constantly prove. So when they encounter something genuinely difficult, something that requires struggle, they panic, because struggling feels like evidence that they are not actually smart after all. They would rather not try than try and reveal that they have limits. This produces a deep fear of any task that might expose the edges of their ability, which is to say, any task worth doing. The imposter feeling thrives here, because growth always involves not yet knowing, and to the person praised for being smart, not yet knowing feels like fraudulence. The fourth root is simply competence itself, combined with a particular kind of mind. There is a well-known phenomenon where the more you know about a field, the more you become aware of how much you do not know. Beginners often feel confident because they cannot yet see the vast landscape of what they have not learned. Experts, paradoxically, often feel less confident because they can see exactly how much remains beyond their grasp. So the very thing that makes you good at what you do, your awareness of the full complexity of the field, is also what makes you feel inadequate. The most thoughtful, perceptive, intellectually honest people are often the most affected by imposter feelings, precisely because they are honest enough to see their own limitations clearly. Meanwhile, the genuinely incompetent often feel quite confident because they lack the knowledge to perceive their own incompetence. There is a bitter irony here. The feeling of being a fraud correlates, if anything, with being more capable, not less. I want to sit with that for a moment, because I think it is genuinely important. If you feel like an imposter, it is very likely because you are competent enough to see the gap between where you are and where mastery would be. That gap is visible to you because you have the sophistication to see it. A truly incompetent person would not even know the gap existed, so the feeling you are interpreting as evidence of inadequacy is actually evidence of perception, of honesty, of expertise. You have been reading the data backwards. There is a fifth root I want to name, because it affects a lot of people and rarely gets discussed. Sudden success. When achievement comes faster than your internal sense of self can keep up with, you get a kind of identity lag. Part of you is still the person who was struggling, who was unknown, who was working toward the thing, and then the thing arrives faster than expected and the inner self has not caught up to the outer circumstances. So you walk around in a life that, on paper, belongs to a successful person, while internally you still feel like the striver who has not made it yet. This gap between the external reality and the internal self-image produces a powerful sense of fraudulence. You feel like you are wearing someone else's life. The good news about this root is that it tends to resolve with time, as the internal self-image slowly catches up to the external reality. But you can speed it up by consciously updating your self-image, by allowing yourself to actually absorb that the circumstances have changed, that you are not the striver anymore, that you have, in fact, arrived. So what do you do about it? Let me give you the path forward. The first practice is to separate feelings from facts. The feeling of being a fraud is real, but it is not a fact. Learn to hold both at once. I feel like I do not deserve this, and the facts are that I earned it through years of work. I feel like I am going to be found out, and the facts are that my work has been consistently good. You do not have to make the feeling go away. You just have to stop treating it as accurate information. The feeling is a weather pattern in your mind, not a measurement of reality. When it shows up, you can acknowledge it, even greet it, without believing it. Oh, there is the imposter feeling again. Interesting. It does not mean what it thinks it means. The second practice is to actually collect the evidence. People with imposter feelings have a broken evidence system. They delete the successes and archive the failures. So you have to deliberately correct this. Keep a record, a folder, a document, a note on your phone, where you save the evidence of your competence. The kind email from a client, the positive review, the problem you solved, the thing you made that worked, the moment someone trusted you with something important. When the imposter feeling strikes, Go to the folder and read it. This is not arrogance. It is correcting a documented cognitive bias. You have been systematically ignoring the evidence of your own ability, and the folder forces you to look at it. The third practice is to talk about it. Imposter feelings thrive in secrecy. The conviction that you are the only fraud in a room full of competent people is one of the core features of the experience. The antidote is to discover that almost everyone feels this way. When you actually talk to other accomplished people, you find that the colleague you assumed was perfectly confident is just as plagued by self-doubt as you are. The mentor you admire still feels like they are figuring it out. The expert you look up to still has moments of certainty that they will be exposed. This discovery is enormously relieving. You are not uniquely fraudulent. You are normally human. The feeling is so common that it would be more remarkable to find a thoughtful person who did not experience it. The fourth practice is to reframe the relationship with not knowing. Part of what fuels imposter feelings is the belief that competent people always know what they are doing. This is false. Competent people are simply people who have learned to function in the presence of uncertainty. They do not know everything. They have learned to be okay not knowing everything, to look things up, to ask questions, to figure it out as they go. The mark of expertise is not the absence of uncertainty. It is comfort with uncertainty. So instead of interpreting your not knowing as evidence of fraudulence, you can reframe it as the normal condition of everyone who does meaningful work. The goal is not to eliminate the not knowing. It is to do good work in spite of it, which is what every competent person you have ever admired is actually doing. The fifth practice is to take action before you feel ready. Imposter feelings tell you to wait until you feel competent before you act. But the feeling of competence often comes after the action, not before. If you wait to feel ready, you will wait forever, because the feeling of readiness is precisely what imposter syndrome withholds. So you have to learn to act in the presence of the feeling. Apply for the role even though you feel unqualified. Say yes to the opportunity even though you are scared. Submit the work even though you are sure it is not good enough. Each time you act despite the feeling, you gather a little more evidence that you can function, that the catastrophe you feared does not happen, that you are more capable than the feeling insists. The action does not wait for the confidence. The action builds the confidence. The sixth practice is to be careful about how you talk to yourself when you make a mistake. People with imposter feelings tend to treat every error as confirmation of their fraudulence. They make a small mistake and an entire internal prosecution begins. See, this proves it, you do not actually know what you are doing. But mistakes are not evidence of fraudulence. Mistakes are evidence of being a human being who does things. Everyone who does meaningful work makes mistakes. The competent person makes a mistake and thinks, okay, that did not work. Let me fix it and learn from it. The imposter mind makes a mistake and thinks, I knew it. I am a fraud. The jig is up. Watch for this. When you make a mistake, deliberately respond the way a competent, secure person would. Not with denial, but with proportion. A mistake is a mistake. It is not a verdict on your entire worth and ability. I want to address something important before I close. There is a difference between imposter feelings and an accurate awareness of genuine skill gaps. Sometimes you feel underprepared because you actually are underprepared, and the right response is to learn more, to prepare, to develop the skill. Imposter syndrome is different. It is the feeling of fraudulence that persists despite genuine competence, that ignores real evidence, that cannot be resolved by any amount of achievement. The way to tell the difference is to look at the evidence honestly. If the objective evidence says you are capable and you still feel like a fraud, that is imposter syndrome. If the objective evidence says you have real gaps to close, that is just an accurate signal to keep learning. Most people who worry that they are frauds are in the first category. The genuine frauds, ironically, rarely worry about it at all. I want to say one more thing about how imposter feelings interact with overwork, because this is the part that quietly damages people's health. When you believe your competence is fake, you compensate by working harder than everyone around you. You over-prepare for every meeting. You triple-check work that does not need checking. You stay late. You answer emails at midnight. You can never let up because letting up would mean the fraud gets exposed. This produces a particular kind of exhaustion, a bone-deep tiredness that does not go away with a weekend off, because the engine driving it never switches off. And here is the cruel twist. The overwork produces more success, which the imposter mind interprets as more evidence that you are getting away with something, which produces more fear, which produces more overwork. It is a treadmill that speeds up the more you run. The only way off is to challenge the underlying belief, not to run faster. You have to risk doing a normal amount of work and discovering that you are still competent, that the catastrophe does not come, that you were never actually fooling anyone. That experiment is terrifying for the imposter mind, and it is also the way out. I will leave you with this. The feeling of being a fraud is, in a strange way, a sign that you care. You care about doing good work. You care about not deceiving people. You care about being genuinely competent rather than merely appearing competent. These are good qualities. The problem is not the caring. The problem is the broken measurement system that turns your caring into self-attack. So do not try to stop caring. Instead, fix the measurement. Collect the evidence. Talk to others. Reframe uncertainty. Act despite the feeling. And slowly, the grip loosens. You will probably never fully eliminate the imposter feeling, and that is okay. The goal is not to feel perfectly confident. The goal is to stop letting the feeling run your life, to be able to act, to achieve, to receive your accomplishments, even while the feeling murmurs in the background. You can do meaningful work with the imposter feeling present. Millions of capable people do, every single day. You are one of them. If this resonated with you, please give the video a like. It really helps me reach more people who have been carrying this in secret. And if you want more videos like this where we name the quiet struggles of capable people and find ways through them, please subscribe. I have a lot more to share, and I would love to keep walking through it with you. Take care of yourself this week. Start the evidence folder. Talk to one person about how you actually feel. Take one action before you feel ready. The feeling of being a fraud is not the truth about you. It is just an old weather pattern, and you are learning to keep working even when it rains. And one final reflection before you go. I want you to consider the possibility that the very fact that you have been carrying this feeling, quietly, for years, while still showing up and doing your work, is itself proof of something remarkable. You have been succeeding the entire time you have been convinced you were failing. You have been delivering while certain you would be exposed. You have been competent while believing you were a fraud. That is not the profile of an imposter. That is the profile of someone with deep integrity and a slightly miscalibrated inner voice. The work now is not to become more capable. You are already capable. The work is to let yourself finally believe what the evidence has been telling you all along. You belong here. You earned this. You are not getting away with anything. You are simply good at what you do, and it is time to let yourself know it. I will see you in the next one.